aside from the Zoom. Thank you. Aside from the Zoom webinar platform that the participants will use to attend remotely, the public will have no discernible difference in their ability to watch the meeting from that of someone physically attending the meeting. Instruction to join this virtual meeting, as well as contact information for a TPA staff member to assist you, are provided in the published meeting agenda. Please note that although some members of the BT PAC are attending the meeting in person, committee members will be appearing at today's meeting remotely, either via webcam or telephone. Additionally, scheduled presenters and the BT PAC liaison will also be appearing via webcam or telephone. Staff, please call the roll for quorum.
Before I call the roll, I want to remind the members present in person to unmute your microphones by hitting the button on the base, and when it's red, it means it's on. And then those that are attending virtually, if you can please unmute yourselves, and my staff will assist you as well. Tracy Phelps. Bruce, oh, I'm sorry, was that Tracy?
No, sorry, it's Kim Cozy-Rugg in place of Tracy Phelps today.
Thank you. And I'm probably going to mispronounce his last name. My apologies. Bruce Rosenzweig.
Rosenzweig. Present.
Rosenzweig. Thank you so much. Craig Pinder.
Here.
Ted Goodenough.
Here.
Joanna Peluso. She's excused. Thank you. Joanne Scaria.
Here.
Fadi Nassar.
Here.
Sally Channon.
Here.
David Willock.
Here.
Jean Matthews.
Here.
Yash Nagal.
Hey, good morning. I'm here.
Michael Owens.
Here, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Ryan Harding.
Here.
Thank you. John Roach.
Here.
Larry Wallace.
Here, good morning.
Brian Rusher.
Here, good morning.
Stephanie Thoburn.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Are there any modifications to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, so then the next item are the minutes for May 6, 2021. Are there any changes to the minutes? If not, can I get a motion to adopt the minutes?
It's Brian, motion to adopt the minutes.
Michael Owens, second.
Who was the second?
Michael Owens.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Mhm.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Thank you. Okay, so the next item are general public comments and public comments on agenda items. So I'll summarize our public comment procedures for the virtual meeting. Written comments may be submitted online at the website provided in the agenda. Verbal comments may be made by a virtual attendee using the raise hand feature in the Zoom platform. Lastly, a verbal and/or written comment may be provided by an in-person attendee submitting a comment card available at the welcome table. Staff, do we have any general comments that we've received?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay. So then moving right along, comments from the chair and member comments. Well, first I'd like to just welcome Ryan Harding as representative and as the representative, and Christian Santa Gonzalez as the alternate representing the village of Wellington. And then Bruce Rosenzweig, did I do that right, Bruce?
Close. Rosenzweig.
Rosenzweig as the representative of the Boca Raton Bicycle Club on the BT PAC. Is Ryan here? Are you here, or Christian?
I'm here. Thank you.
Welcome and thank you for volunteering your time, as well as Bruce Rosenzweig. Did I do it good?
You're okay.
Okay. If anyone wants to speak, if any committee member has a comment, You can use your raise hand, or if you're here, Jean, you can put your card up. I don't have any additional comments. Does anybody else?
I don't have any hands raised, but Brian does have his card up.
Just briefly, I wanted to congratulate Boynton Beach, West Palm Beach, and also our own tap on the shoulder for Delray Beach. We're dedicating Pride crosswalks this intersection for Pride Month. So dedications are happening in 23 minutes for West Palm Beach, Boynton Beach this weekend, and then Delray Beach next weekend. So check those events out on Facebook if you could. Thank you.
Thanks. That's good stuff. Okay, Alyssa, BT PAC liaison report.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you in person and virtually. I hope everyone's trying to stay dry. I know the sun just peeked out, but summer in Florida. So first on the liaison report for today, we have a TPA staff update. We are very excited to welcome Melissa Murray as our new public relations director and Cassidy Sparks as our new public relations specialist. We look forward to their contributions as we work collaboratively to advance the TPA's mission and vision. For a Florida Bicycle Month recap, that should be National Bicycle Month recap, my mistake. May was National Bicycle Month, and to celebrate it, the TPA staff participated in the Love to Ride Challenge and rode a total of 724 miles, joining just over 1,100 participants from 71 other workplaces statewide. Throughout the month of May, the 266,000 miles rode led to 4,962 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions mitigated by the use of bicycles as vehicles. So thank you for everyone who participated in that. And we hope that if you did not, you participate next year. It's a super fun challenge. The third item on here is recent transit workshops. The Southeast Florida Transportation Council hosted a virtual workshop to discuss the future implementation of commuter rail on the FEC Railway on April 30th. The recording is available on our website at palmbeachtpa.org/CEFTech workshop. And the TPA held a workshop on May 14th as well to hear from transit industry leaders on how we are moving forward with enhanced transit. And this recording is also available on our website at palmbeachtpa.org/meetings. Next, we have the Florida Local Technical Assistance Program Center webinars. The Florida LTAP Center will host basic highway plan reading webinars on June 1st, 8th, and 15th at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. And to register, please visit floridaltap.org/training-calendar. The FDOT's GAP system training is being hosted on June 7th, 2021 at 9 a.m. through 11:30 a.m. And this is for local agencies. This system will replace the local agency program information or LPIT tool. To register, please visit the link available in the liaison report. We also are encouraging bicycle-friendly businesses to apply for the Bicycle-Friendly Business Program. This is a program that recognizes employers for their efforts to encourage a more welcoming atmosphere for bicycling employees, customers, and the community. The application window is open through June 10th, and it's definitely worth applying for. We did it last year, and it's a great designation to have. So I definitely recommend applying for everyone. And the link for that is bikeleague.org/business. And then, of course, walk-friendly communities, municipalities are encouraged to apply for this designation. The application is open through June 15th, 2021, and more information is available on walkfriendly.org. I'm almost done. The June TPA Governing Board meeting will be held on June 17th at 9 a.m., both in person and virtually. And the agenda packet and meeting details will be available on our website at palmbeachtpa.org/board. Of course, high visibility enforcement funding is available year round, and this is for pedestrian and bicycle high visibility enforcement funding that will become available on July 1st. There will be a law enforcement roundtable meeting on June 8th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office Training Center, which is located on Cherry Road. And more information is available. Just email the email on here, and I can also share that with you, but it's in the liaison report as well. And then lastly, raise grant notice of funding opportunity. So this application window for the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, or RAISE grant, formerly known as Build and Tiger Grant, is open. The maximum grant award is $25 million and the application deadline is July 12th. So for more information, please visit transportation.gov/raise grants. And that is it.
Are there any public comments on this, on any of these items? Any
No,
questions?
not on this item. Madam
Okay,
Chair.
I do have one question. What is the FDOT GAP system? If there's training on it, I don't know what it is, so.
I forgot what the acronym stands for, so I'm going to have to get back to you on that.
Is it a software program?
It's yes, it's an internet browser. It's not anything that requires download.
Oh, and what does it do?
Andrew is going to come speak on that.
Oh, thank you, Andrew.
Good morning. Yes, it's actually a pretty important one to pay attention to. So GAP's going to be taking the place of the LAPIT program. So if you're a local agency who administers projects with federal funds, you're a lab, you get lab certification. That is being replaced. That LAPIT program is going to be replaced with the GAP system. So it's a pretty important one. I think it means, the website doesn't say what the abbreviation means. Jason, do you know off the top of your head? GAP? No, we'll get back to you on that.
But it tells you where your projects are or like.
I believe
lists
it
all
is
the
going to
projects?
have that as well. It's
Okay.
going to be a tracking mechanism for that. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's also going to be where we're submitting projects. So you'll be submitting as an agency to that as well.
Okay, okay. So I can see how that can be very helpful, seeing as how it's replacing an existing organizational tool that stores everybody's data. Okay. Anybody else? So now on to the action items. The next item is the final fiscal year 2022 through 2026 Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP resolution. And Jason Price is here, the TPA TIP coordinator, to present this item.
Good morning, everyone. So today I'll be presenting to you the final draft version of the Transportation Improvement Program. And just as a reminder, this is an action item that will require a vote at the end of the presentation and discussion. And the TIP document covers a 5-year timeframe between 22 and 26. And it'll list all of the projects programmed by FDOT and their work program, as well as other regional and local projects. And just to review, just a reminder to the group that the TPA's mission is to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund the transportation system. And today, by way of adopting the Transportation Improvement Program, we're focusing on the funding aspect of the mission stated here on the slide. Now, in adopting the final draft version of the TIP from the TPA's public participation plan, as outlined in the public participation plan, the final draft before you today is presented as a whole document and cannot be voted on. It can only be voted on as presented without changes. If there's changes to be considered in terms of additions and deletions, those can be considered at a future meeting after there's a public comment period to consider those changes. And to review the timeline of how we arrive at a final transportation improvement program for adoption, it first begins in the year prior in July 2020 with the TPA priority list that's approved by the TPA governing board. That priority list is then provided to FDOT to evaluate available funding and cost, and then is incorporated into the FDOT's draft tentative work program. And when the draft tentative work program is provided to the TPA, we then take that document and incorporate it into the draft tip document that I presented to you last month, and is now in its final form this month for formal adoption. And once it's adopted by the TPA governing board, we'll begin to operate from it in the future months. This is another snapshot of the total amount of funding in the TIP document by project section you see on the left-hand side here. And by way of this chart, you can see that the strategic intermodal system capacity section has the lion's share of the funding within the document. And a lot of that funding is state funding. And that state funding is derived, it has turnpike projects incorporated into, and the turnpike projects are funded through turnpike revenues. And so looking a little deeper into that particular section, the strategic intermodal system section, the line, you can see here that the turnpike widening projects, and including 3 interchanges, totals about 696 million. For projects. The second largest piece here in that section is about 17 I-95 interchange projects, either new or modified, for a total of 222 million. And then there's a few specific projects listed here as well for I-95 widening studies, and that's from Linton Boulevard to Okeechobee Boulevard, as well as Indiantown Road to Martin County line. There's also Beeline Highway widening that includes the Beeline North Lake intersection for about 144 million. And lastly, there's the State Route 80 turn lanes at Australian Avenue and State Route 7. And so now I'll go over the 3 TPA priority project sections, starting with the state road modification projects. And in this particular section, there's a total funding amount of approximately 190 million, with a majority of that, 135, in road construction that include 2 specific projects, the State Route 7 extension, as well as the Atlantic Avenue widening. That's followed by the 561 plan corridors, and those are transit corridors. And those transit corridors include US 1, Okeechobee Boulevard, Lake Worth Road, as well as Boynton Beach Boulevard. Included in the state road modifications is also the State Route 80 lighting project for 15 million, and the balance here is on other state roadway modifications. And those are new projects coming online that are begin design work. Now, the next 2 I'll cover are the annual competitive grant programs. And the first one is the local initiatives grant program projects. And within this TIP document, there's approximately 113 million that's being programmed for projects. And we see here that about 76.4 million is for complete streets projects, and that are bicycle and pedestrian projects. Following that are transit projects, and those include the fare interoperability project for Palm Tran, as well as new shelters, conversion to electric buses, and the purchase of new electric buses, as well as new rolling stock for SFRTA that operates Tri-Rail. There's also some signal upgrades programmed within this local initiatives, and that's for the city of Boca Raton, as well as the town of Palm Beach. And lastly, are the planning activities for the TPA that include corridor studies that are conducted by the TPA. The next program is the other annual competitive grant program, and that's transportation alternatives. And so for transportation alternatives, we see that there's approximately 18 million program within this document, and the majority of it, 15 million, is going towards complete streets projects that are also bicycle and pedestrian facilities. And the remaining 3 million is bringing neighborhood local roadways, or at least neighborhood roadways and transit shelters up to ADA compliance. Well, there's also some other construction highlights that are notable here that will be happening in 2022 next year. And these are all projects derived from the Palm Beach County road program. And so you see here, there's a number of resurfacing projects, county road capacity projects that are all widening projects between 3 lanes and 5 lanes for those specific roadways. And lastly, there's a bridge replacement project on County Road 880 over the C51 canal. Now, that concludes that portion of the presentation on the project overviews and the summary of those particular sections. But in addition to that, we do conduct some fiscal analysis as part of our strategic plan. And through this fiscal analysis, we're tracking 3 specific tax funding sources. And the first one here is the State Comprehensive Enhanced Transportation System Tax, or SCETS tax. And so the key takeaway here is to ensure that the amount of taxes collected within the county are actually programmed on projects within the county. And through our analysis, we see that the majority of the funds that are being collected in the county are programmed here in Palm Beach. And so it is on target. And there is a balance of about 10.5 million in remaining funds, but those funds are also on district-wide projects, and those district-wide projects include Palm Beach County. The next one to review here as part of fiscal analysis is the I-95 Expressway express lane revenues in Palm Beach County. And it's the first piece that is open and currently operating is the Boca Raton section. So it's actively collecting revenues, and those revenues can only be spent on specific activities in the order that you see on the slide here, and that's to operate, maintain, and improve the facility where they are collected, followed by operating, maintaining, and improving state highways within the county that the revenue is being collected, and that would be Palm Beach County. And lastly is the support of express bus service on those facilities. And the last component of the fiscal analysis is MCORs, or multi-use corridors of regional economic significance. While the MCORs is not directly located in Palm Beach County and they're on the western side of Florida, we are tracking the implementation of those and the development of MCORs to make sure that there's no adverse impacts or any financial impacts to the funding that is being programmed and utilized within Palm Beach County. And you see here as a note that Senate Bill 100 is expected to dissolve MCORs, the MCORs program, which is a recent development. So I believe that is the conclusion of the presentation. And at this point, I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions for Jason? I saw a
And
hand.
yes, Madam Chair, I was gonna say I did have a public comment, but they lowered their hand. So I have no public comments at this time.
Okay, so I thought I saw JC. JC?
Yes, but they lowered their hand. She
Oh,
lowered her hand.
she
so
lowered her hand.
It's no, then that means you have no public comments right now.
Oh, I thought she's on our board.
She is, but because the main representative is here, she's considered a general public.
Oh.
They don't
that's
get to
good
go
know.
switch back and forth on
Good.
who's representing or
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so now we bring it to the board. Oh, I see Sally and Jean. Sally?
I had a question about if you go back to the LI, so sort of a significant amount of money, 16 million, I think, for planning. And you mentioned the corridor planning. Does any of that planning money go towards proactive planning, like for local governments that don't really have the ability to plan and bring forward projects because they don't really have the staff? And I'm bringing this up because when we have our projects come forward, there's when you have the staff and the ability, you can bring forward develop the application and everything to bring forward projects for money. But then we have communities where people are dependent on other modes of transportation, but often those particular areas don't have the staff in their local governments to really develop and bring forward projects. So I was just wondering does the TPA proactively, go out and try to essentially find projects and support local governments where, for instance, on the map, there's maps that show where you get points when you're putting in an application, say because there's a lighting issue or a high accident or what, I forget exactly what it's called, high crash. Is any of that planning money spent in that way?
I would say that there is support for local projects in a range of ways. I couldn't say that the planning activities here that are listed here, it's kind of a catch-all phrase here for the planning and operations for the TPA, but what you're asking is, it wouldn't necessarily come from this particular pot of money. It would be if there was a priority project that a city or a municipality that didn't apply for a grant and they weren't capable of applying for a grant, it could become a priority project of the TPA, and we would kind of take that and champion that project and possibly find a way to implement it. So I think because you're kind of asking about, can a municipality, do we actively support them applying for a grant if they don't have the support structure to do so? And so we're working in other capacities to do that, because it's tricky to be the implementing agency of a project in a municipality that you don't either own the roadway or you don't have the responsible charge to implement the project. So I think those mechanisms that we're trying to work out those details in some way, but typically that's how that falls. We don't really take on the project specifically or support or fund the project ourselves in terms of the supporting a municipality to apply for the grant and provide the support structure for it directly. But I can say there are other programs in there. If you wanted to do a planning study, there are funds available for you for public outreach and that kind of activity. So if you wanted to study a particular area, there are funds available that you could apply for to do studies with the TPA, and the TPA will help supplement that funding for planning studies. So in that capacity, yes, but I think you're more geared towards the applying for specific grant funds through like LI or TA. And so under those conditions, not directly, but there are still funds available for municipalities to utilize and get from the TPA to do studies and to do planning outreach.
I want to, oh, sorry, Sally.
So just thank you. That was.
I want to hop in and clarify something very quickly. So yes, we use our planning budget to provide matching local or funds to local governments, and we proactively identify projects in the state road modifications list within those communities, and details are actually in our UPWP. But also I do want to mention, we are currently working on a complete streets opportunities plan that will provide resources and planning assistance in staff time and as a funding partner for complete streets and mobility plans in mobility plans and corridor studies. So I do just want to also provide that.
Jean?
Okay, I want to applaud you guys for tracking how much tax money comes in Palm Beach County and how much goes out. I think a lot of people don't track it, and a lot of TPAs might not track it. And so it's good news that it is staying within Palm Beach County. I would just check the resurfacing project for Palmetto Park Road. I would just check the boundaries on that. But excellent presentation. Thank you.
I
Yes.
have Fadi with his hand raised.
Fadi, please.
Yes, my question is about the planning budget. I know TPA is doing a number of studies for the transit corridors. Would that be part of that planning?
Yes, it
budget?
is. Yes.
Because I know we looked at one study, I think, for Okeechobee corridor, but we did not see kind of ridership estimation. Do we know if those studies include ridership estimations?
Well, I would surmise that the ridership data would come from Palm Trans, and it would be included as part of the study to say, you know, if we're going to look at a corridor and look at transit specifically, we'd identify the bus stops. And we have that data available to get ridership data by bus stop.
I do have.
Well, I'm talking more about premium transit. When you prepare for premium transit, you need to estimate if your densities, if you know your characteristics of your corridor support the ridership for premium transit. I haven't seen any kind of study that shows that. Is it being planned? Is it the next phase? Is it something that we can look at?
Yes, we have a transit coordinator that is actively working on plans to study premium transit. And I think they do those estimates.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I do have Yash from Palm Trend that just raised his hand. I don't know if he wants to address it, but I believe Alyssa also has a comment.
Okay. Oh, Yash, is this a response to the discussion we're having right now?
Yes, I just wanted to say, Fadi, yes, we do ridership projections. We will be doing ridership projections in our study.
Great. Alyssa?
Sure. I was just going to note that Andrew, James is actually going to be coming in and doing a presentation in a little bit on the Okeechobee corridor or multimodal corridor study. And I would definitely try to save all scoping questions for that time because he can answer them all about the transit study. So.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I do have John with his hand raised.
Okay. Mr. Roach.
Good morning. Yep. Sure you won't be surprised, but as the item pertains to the entire TIP program, including projects related to the extension of State Road 7, of which the city is continuing to oppose, unfortunately, I won't be supporting the adoption of this item, but definitely appreciate staff's efforts and thorough presentation and information.
Thanks for your consistency. I do have one question. It might be a dumb one, but why is it on all of the items that say 561 plan corridor, it doesn't have any data or information? It's just one big block. Yes.
You're looking at the summary tables
Yes,
where it
yeah.
says 561 corridor plan.
Yeah. It's just all merged into one thing and there's no information on, is it because there is none? Or I just don't know.
I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay. Maybe you could get back with me.
Hello again, Andrew Euler. Yes, on the state road modifications list, you'll see ones with the 561 plan. So those are just the like parent sort of overall line for that. And there's going to be subsequent projects underneath it for those. So when there's more projects that pop up that are part of that 561 corridor, those 561 corridors, for example, US 1, Okeechobee, or Lake Worth, you'll see projects go under those. So for example, I believe we have one that would be like signal priority, and then the next project might be transit shelters underneath that.
Oh, I
So that's
see.
why.
I see how it's an organizational tool
Correct.
as a
And
header.
yes.
Okay.
And then you'll see it might be, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it might be like 17-1, 17-1A, B,
Yes.
C.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That makes it clear. Maybe if there was some, I don't know, a bolder line in between or something, just to help the reader. Because I didn't get that. I saw the different numbers, the project numbers. So the parent number is a different number than the subsequent number. So I assumed that the parent number was its own project. Okay, thank you.
I don't have any more virtual hands raised, but Brian did have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian.
Motion to recommend adoption of the final 2022 to 2026 TIP program resolution.
Do we have a second?
Jean Matthews, I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Brian, hearing no further discussion, a second by Jean. Can we please call
Yes.
the vote?
So the motion on the floor is to recommend, to recommend adoption of the fiscal year 22 to 26 Transportation Improvement Program as presented. So when I call your name, please state yes or no. And my staff will assist the virtual attendees with unmuting. So Kimberly Kosarog,
Yes.
thank you. And I promise I will get it at some point. Bruce Rosenzweig, we may have lost.
Yes.
Bruce. Oh, thank you. Craig Pinder,
Yes.
Ted Goodenough,
Yes.
Joanna Paluso will be marked as absent. Joanne Scaria,
Yes.
Fadi Nassar,
Yes.
Sally Shannon,
Yes.
David Willock,
Yes.
Jean Matthews,
Yes.
Yash Nagal,
Yes.
Michael Owens,
Yes.
Ryan Harding,
Yes.
John Roach,
No.
Brian Rusher,
Yes.
Stephanie Thoburn.
Yes.
It passes with one opposed, Madam Chair.
Okay. We're moving right along. Okay, information items. This one will be fun, I'm sure. Atlantic Avenue Project Update, Turnpike to Jog Road. And Alexander Estrada from FDOT will be presenting this item. And I'm assuming virtually. Okay. Welcome,
Yes.
Alexander.
Thank you. Good morning. Today we have an update item. We presented this last year to the committee. This is a PD&E on Atlantic Avenue going from Turnpike to Jog Road. So we have a brief agenda today. Just going to go over the project, traffic projections, the bill alternatives, and the schedule. With us, we have John is our consultant assistant project manager, who's going to go in further into detail. John, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Alex. And we also have Asan from Scalar, which is the lead traffic engineer on this project, to assist with any questions. So the purpose of the project is to address capacity needs to meet future travel demand. So we're looking at widening from 4 to 6 lanes improve the local and regional transportation network while providing enhanced safety not only for vehicles, but as well as for bicyclists and pedestrians along the corridor. So the project is needed to relieve congestion. Certain segments of the corridor are already over capacity. This project is identified in the Palm Beach TPA's 2045 LRTP. We want to enhance safety and mobility. This project will improve emergency evacuation as it serves as a connection to the turnpike on the western limits of the corridor, which is an SIS facility, the turnpike, and even further east, Atlantic Avenue connects to I-95 as well. So there's an existing sidewalk gap from Michelangelo Boulevard to west of Jog Road on the south side of Atlantic. So as part of this project, we want to make sure that we're going to complete any sidewalk or bicycle gap. So we're going to be including sidewalks as well as buffered bicycle lanes on both sides of the corridor. So this is the study limits. We're looking at the turnpike to Jog Road, which is approximately 1.8 miles in length. It's within unincorporated Palm Beach County. As I mentioned, 4 to 6 lanes, as well as bicycle and pedestrian features. The existing right-of-way varies from 113 to 175 feet. The context class is a C3C suburban commercial. And this is an urban principal arterial with the speed limit of 45 miles per hour. So these are the project development process flow chart. The planning phase has already been completed. We're now presenting to you here in the PD&E phase, which takes approximately 2 years to complete. Following the PD&E, the phases will be design and right-of-way, which is about 2 to 3 years. And then once those are complete, the final phase would be the construction, which is approximately 2 to 4 year process.
John, I'm sorry. We're having the same problem as yesterday. You cut out.
Okay, maybe I'll talk a bit louder. Is that better?
Yes, if it cuts out again, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. So the no-build design year, which is our design year is 2045, is presented here with our lane configurations, the delay, as well as level of service. So you'll notice in these fluorescent pink areas, these are all going to be operating at level of service F in the design year 2045 if no capacity improvements are made. You'll also notice there's several here which are in E. The department's standard is a level of service D. So you'll see a lot of issues we'll have in the future if no improvements are. Oops. So in the build condition for the design year 2045, where we have now gone from 4 to 6 lanes, you'll notice there's been significant improvements to all of the intersections, with the exception of Jog Road, which will still operate at a level of service F, even by adding the additional through lane capacity on the main line of Atlantic Avenue. So with that, we came up with several ideas on how we can improve the intersection for Jog Road and Atlantic Avenue. And before we start talking about that, we just want to discuss the existing conditions around the intersection. The first thing is the westbound left turn, which is to come into the Kings Point Shopping Center. So that's an existing access point. Seville Terrace is the next intersection over, which provides for left in as well as left out movements. And then further down, we have a signalized intersection on Jog Road, just south of Atlantic Avenue, which allows for left out and left in movements to serve the Kings Point Shopping Center. So as we mentioned, the existing year operational analysis even today is at a level of service E. And as I said before, the design year will be looking at level of service F with no improvements. So we came up with a concept, which is the partial displaced left turn. Some of you may have heard of this referred to as a continuous flow intersection or a CFI. And the way this concept works is by having the left turns cross over further back from the main intersection into another left turn lane storage, which then provides for a new signals at the main intersection. But by having these left turns, they're able to make lefts while the through movements and the right turns are also going at the same time. By doing this, we were able to have acceptable level of service. So that's part of why we came up with this concept. The timing and so forth with the signals will allow this to operate at acceptable LOS in the design year 2045. You'll see here, pedestrians will be able to cross through and have islands on both sides for where these right turn lanes are. The bicyclists may still use the bike lanes if they like, or be on the sidewalks under this type of concept. So this is kind of just showing the operations, and now we'll talk a little bit about some of the access issues related to this concept. So the first thing we want to talk about is here on Atlantic Avenue, there is an existing left turn into Atlantic Square Shopping Center, and we will need to close that access, the median opening, in order to accommodate left turns for the displaced left. And then in the other direction, the left turn median opening into the Kings Point Shopping Center will need to be closed, one because of the existing spacing and to accommodate the left turns as well for the PDLT concept. The next thing is here at Seville Terrace, the left turn, which I mentioned to go westbound into Seville Terrace, will also need to be closed in order to provide adequate storage for the left turns for the northbound movement, eastbound to northbound movement. By having to remove that left turn movement, people that are trying to turn into Seville Terrace will then have to go further down to Cumberland Drive, which is the next intersection over, and make a U-turn. So that is a T intersection today. So we have added a U-turn lane at that intersection, as well as a bulb out of some additional pavement on the south side so that trucks can make that U-turn movement. Here at the signalized intersection, which we talked about at number 4, we will have to close that intersection and remove the signal, and that is to accommodate the storage for the left turn lanes here on Jog Road. The key benefit of this concept, as I mentioned before, is that it does achieve acceptable level of service in the design year. The key downfall with this, however, is the amount of right-of-way take, particularly here on the north side, but we do have right-of-way take in all 4 quadrants. You'll see there is some along the residential properties on the other side as well, and here in the businesses on the south side. And one other thing with that is the access, obviously, that we just talked about. There's obviously going to be several locations where there's going to be access impacts. So something that we looked at that's a little bit less aggressive to reduce the right-of-way impacts as opposed to the previous concept that we just showed is by maintaining a conventional intersection like it is today, but expanding all of the approaches from dual left turns to triple left turns. By doing so, we will still not achieve an acceptable level of service, but we will have much less delay than what we would if we were to just maintain the existing dual left turns at all approaches like we have today. So access issues are still similar as maintain the dual lefts. We will still have to close the left turn into the Kings Point. One benefit of this alternative over the partial displaced lefts is that we can still keep the left turn movement into Seville Terrace. We did add an extra lane for the lefts in order to accommodate U-turns, since we are closing the left turn into the Kings Point Shopping Center. This signalized intersection would still need to be removed as in the previous alternative. So this option will have a lot less right-of-way impacts. You'll notice here in this quadrant, but there is still a pretty decent amount of take along the Jog Road north leg along residential properties on the backside of the homes, as well as some along here in the southwest quadrant in the shopping center, and a little bit here in the Atlantic Square. So the typical section for the main line that we're designing is a 6-lane urban typical with a 22-foot median, 11-foot travel lanes, 7-foot buffered bike lanes, and 10-foot sidewalk on the south side and 8-foot sidewalk on the north side. This typical section that you're seeing is from Turnpike to Cumberland Drive. Here where we're calling it the best fit alignment, what we've done is we've looked at a couple of alignments, and this particular one is kind of meandering and taking some right of way on the north side of Atlantic Avenue as well as on the south side. We were trying to utilize as much of the green space that is out there without having to go and impact any businesses in terms of parking lots and things of that sort. So this would be limited to utility impacts and maybe signage, but we don't have to have any relocations or physical impacts to the businesses. So this take on the north side, you'll see we have about 0 to 18 feet of right-of-way take. On the south side, which we're now taking some of the property from the Lakeport Drainage District L34 canal, it's up to 32 feet of take. This right here, you'll notice we're leaving about 55 to 90 feet of right-of-way in the proposed condition. LWDD has expressed to us that they would like to maintain a minimum of 75 feet of right-of-way for the canal. So in areas where we fall short of the 75, we're looking to pipe the canal with either 54-inch dual culverts or a 10x3 box culvert. In areas where we do maintain the minimum of 75 feet, we will still be realigning the canal by shifting it some to the north to allow for a wider berm for maintenance on the south side. We are coordinating this with Lakeport Drainage District. We've had some meetings with them already, and we have another one next week to go over these options with them. So this is the next section over from Cumberland Drive to Jog Road. You'll notice the typical section is still the same with the 22-foot median, 11-foot lanes, the buffered bike lanes, as well as the 10-foot sidewalk and the 8-foot sidewalks. So right-of-way take is minimal on the north side within this section. We do not have an existing canal in this area. There's only a ditch there. So we'll be looking to pipe the ditch, and Lakeport Drainage District says that they're okay with us doing that.
I'm sorry, John. Again,
yeah.
your audio went out on the last item you were highlighting.
Okay, so the Lakeport Drainage District, we have coordinated with them, and there is no canal within this segment from Cumberland to Jog Road. So it's only a ditch that is present, and we're going to be looking to pipe the existing ditch, and Lakeport Drainage District has said that they are okay with that here in this segment. So this typical section, again, is going to be the roadway features and the bike ped features are all the same as before, but this is looking to hold the right-of-way line on the north side, do all of the widening on the south side into the canal right-of-way. Now you will notice there is a note here that says there's still 4 feet to 8 feet of right-of-way take. This is only to get through a transition area from the bridge that was recently widened near the Turnpike intersection. So once we go from the bridge over, we'll transition out, and then there'll be no more right-of-way take on the north side. It'll only be done on the south side from the canal right-of-way. So this will be very similar to the previous concept. Again, wherever we fall short of the 75 feet, we'll be looking to pipe the canal, and we'll still be looking to realign in this section to allow that wider berm area for maintenance on the south side of the canal. And same with this typical section. This is still very similar to the previous one that we had showed you. The right-of-way distances or right-of-way takes are really the only thing that has changed here. All other features are the same for the roadway, the bike, and the ped. And again, we are piping the existing ditch as part of this concept as well. So the alternatives comparison, We've put together here showing the different alignments compared up against each other, as well as the no build alternative, which remains always a viable option in a PD&E study. So you'll notice a lot of benefits by doing the build, whether it be the best fit or the south alignment. We're going to improve the vehicle safety, improve traffic flow. Another key thing here, you'll notice the bike ped safety will be improved with the buffered bike lanes, as well as the 8 and 10 foot sidewalks. The construction costs here, the 33.9 million and the 36.7 million are both assuming that the partial displaced left turn will be constructed, which is the most expensive of the options, intersection options that we showed you. So right-of-way acquisition is not reflected in these numbers. So the construction cost is a bit higher for the south alignment, but the right-of-way cost will be lower for that concept. At this time, right-of-way acquisition, we're still developing some numbers, but preliminarily we're looking at about $30 million of right-of-way costs. So that would be in addition to the construction numbers that you're seeing here. So some of the components that we look at in the PD&E study, the engineering components, the environmental, as well as the public involvement. We tentatively have a public alternatives workshop scheduled for June 28th and 29th. The June 28th presentation will be online only, and the June 29th will be in person at the Hagen Ranch Road Branch Library. Once that those dates become official, information for attending either one of those will be posted on the project website. Our public hearing is tentatively scheduled for later this year in November, December timeframe. So continuing with the public involvement, as I mentioned before, we have had some meetings with the Lake Worth Drainage District already, and we have another one scheduled next week. We've met a few times with Palm Beach County, as well as the Palm Beach TPA staff. Down here at the bottom, this is the project website where I mentioned the information regarding the public workshop will be posted if you have an interest in attending. So this is just showing some more of the agency coordination that's involved in this project, with the key ones here up at the top, like we just talked about, the TPA, the county, and the Lake Worth Drainage District. So our timeline and funding, we began this study in February of 2020. We're now here approaching our alternatives public workshop. As I mentioned, trying to hold our public hearing at the end of this year, and the anticipated study completion will be June of 2022. So we're looking at summertime of 2022. Future phases for design, it's funded for fiscal year 2022. The right-of-way phase is funded for fiscal year 2024. And currently there's no construction funding for this project. It is a candidate project for the year 2027 fiscal year. In our contacts, as we mentioned before, Alexander Estrada, he's the FDOT project manager, which is here with us today. You may reach out for him if you have any questions, or the FDOT communications manager. And the FDOT's safety message is slow down, stay cool, and have safe summer travel. And with that, we thank you and we open it up to any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Margie, do we have any hands raised?
I don't have, excuse me, I don't have any general public comments, but I do have Jean and Brian and Fadi. So Jean, Brian, Fadi.
Okay, Jean.
Excellent study. I'm very glad this is being addressed. When I take the turnpike, this is where I get on. I live off Atlantic and the road really needs improvements. One of the things I observe right now is both lanes are going straight, so there's no right turn lane to get on the turnpike going north. And sometimes there'll be a car there, and then that car will go straight, and then the next 40 cars will get on to make a right to get on the turnpike. So when you are addressing that right lane to get on the turnpike, I would do as long a stacking distance as possible, even like 30 cars, because I see it all the time, straight lanes, and then the turn lanes are completely empty and they just can't get over because people are going straight. And the only thing the I love new design, but the partial displaced left turn, the only thing would be to make sure there's mechanisms for people to behave themselves so they don't block the intersection if they are making a left turn and they have to cross over westbound travel. But I'm very glad it's being addressed. Thank you.
Brian,
Yes, thank you. I know that you have a table where you show bicycle pedestrian improvements going from like red to green. I feel like it's a little disingenuous without providing a little bit more information. I understand you're providing lanes, but it's still a very dangerous intersection for bicycle movements. And just for Alex and John's information, I just sent you an FHWA guide, or just to Alex, because that's whose email I have, about partial displaced left turns in particular and how to accommodate bicyclists through the intersection. It's a pretty straightforward, additions and minors, movements and geometry, which I know you guys are probably a little bit past, but it's always better to have it now and to try to get it in PD&E while you can. Bicyclists making a left turn are going to be very hard pressed to actually be able to make it through this intersection, and especially at Jog Road and Atlantic. So I'd strongly encourage you to revisit that intersection in particular. I believe the pages are 48 to 50, which talk about bicycle and pedestrian movements. It would really help people make it through that intersection with a lot more ease. The addition of turn boxes and kind of before you hit the right turn lanes, heading eastbound in particular, you can bring the bicyclist onto the shared use path, which would make it a lot easier to navigate through that intersection without too many geometric changes to what you guys have already designed. So I'd strongly encourage you to look at those. Thank you. That's all I got.
and Fadi.
Okay. I think it's something similar to what Brian mentioned. Basically, the 7-foot bike lanes and the wide sidewalk. I mean, this is really great, but you want to make sure that when you get to the intersections, as much as possible, you prioritize the bike and sidewalk to make sure, at least the bike lane, you can provide them with adequate buffering or whatever. My other question is, when you show the displaced left or the options with the triple left, I really hope that you're probably going to be using some advanced micro simulation like VISM to evaluate these options, especially for the displaced left with the nearby signalized intersection. I don't think you can evaluate that with static software. You really need to simulate it, and just waiting for your response.
Right. Well, thank you.
I do have Ted with his hand raised,
Okay.
and then Fadi, you raised your hand again. Gonna look.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Good enough.
I appreciate your presentation. As a former bicyclist, I can't ride anymore because I'm blind and you don't want me. Anyway, I appreciate that you've separated the pedestrians and the bicyclists because, again, as a former rider, I don't want to be dodging pedestrians. I want to be getting where I'm going. I did have a question about the buffer. What type of buffer are you looking for between the cars and the bicyclists?
This time it's a 20-inch striped buffer, so there is no physical separation. So it's about almost 5 feet for the bike lane, and then there's another stripe before you get to the adjacent travel lane, the outside travel lane.
Is there any chance that you would have a physical raised buffer? Because a painted line, A, fades with traffic, and B, you're just asking the drivers who are doing 45 and possibly not paying attention to just, oh, don't go into the bike lane because you're going to hit a cyclist instead of a car.
Yeah, we've recently spoken with Nick and some of the other TPA staff, and they kind of mentioned the same thing about what we can do with that, and we're coordinating with the department to see if there's anything that can be done that also has to meet the DOT's standards as well. So right now, there is nothing in place that's set to show any physical separation, but we are evaluating some potential options with some of the department staff.
Thank you.
Margie, are there any other comments or questions from the board?
I have John with his hand raised.
Mr. Roach?
Kind of piggyback on what people have been saying. You know, I think the physical separation of the bike lane, if that's a possibility to achieve that, I think you should certainly explore that. I agree with Ted that, you know, it almost creates a wider travel lane by having, you know, just that striped out area. So any opportunity to actually put a physical obstruction between the cyclist and the travel lane would be good. Also, I'm intrigued on the displaced left turn lane of, is that increasing the number of conflict points between cyclists and automobiles, you know, in terms of, you know, the number of crossings, you know, across the bike lane and so forth of, are we creating a situation where it's actually harder for the cyclists to navigate through the intersection because of all those conflict points? And kind of on, you know, the comment about the pedestrian and indicating that, you know, the one option, you know, was the best pedestrian circulation or what have you. You know, I'm not sure that the partial displaced necessarily shortens it, because I think the north-south crosswalk is still the same. Yes, you have some refuge for the east-west, but I think there's still a substantial crosswalk, you know, because you have the through lanes plus the left turn lanes on the other side to still navigate, you know, as pedestrians are crossing north and south through the intersection. So I don't know if I would fully agree that it shortens the pedestrian crossing, but I do see where it creates some refuge. Granted, that creates some additional crossings because they have to sit there and wait until the second crossing becomes available to them. So, but those are just things I would have you look at, you know, the number of conflict points and then also the physical separation if possible.
Thanks, John. Was there anybody else?
I was going to say no, but Bruce raised his hand.
Okay, after Bruce, then I have a couple points I'd like to make.
Okay.
Bruce?
Bruce, you're muted. It should prompt you on your end to unmute. There you go.
I'm okay. Okay, yeah, as to the physical barrier for these bike lanes, in a sense that creates another barrier to the riders. As people are wont to do, they throw a lot of trash out on the right of ways and what is considered bike lanes. Coming upon something obstructing free flow of bicycle traffic, a physical barrier would create another obstacle. There would be no real place to go. We understand in the cycling community that when there is an obstacle in where we're riding in a bike lane, we are able to and encouraged to filter into the traffic lane. As dangerous as that may be, it is the cyclist's right. So just a little note in opposition to an actual physical barrier.
Okay. All right. Anybody else, Margie?
No.
Okay.
You're up.
Thank you for the presentation. My major comments when I review this from a design standpoint is we cannot continue to blow out intersections and try to add lanes. We have to figure out a way to work together in order to employ new techniques or maybe old. An analogy here is that the intersection is clogged, it's an artery. Well, what does your body do when an artery gets clogged? Even momentarily for over periods of time, a week, it comes up with a way to come up with a new route. So in thinking about this, you know, and since we've got all these different cities, governmental agencies, I understand this is not just FDOT's problem, it's all of our problems. So, you know, I understand this is unincorporated Palm Beach County. So one of the things we do, and it's not just FDOT's problem to resolve this issue, is what are the surrounding areas doing in order to mitigate the traffic and bypass and create other opportunities for this corridor to get relieved. In Jupiter, what we have done is systematically created cross access through individual parcels, as small, as big, as whatever. We got one behind Walmart. We've got all these secret little places that you can navigate your way and not go through that clogged artery. So when I look at that aerial, there's so many opportunities, especially for those commercial businesses that are on the south side of Jog Road in Atlantic. And I don't go over here, Gene, so I don't know what you're talking about, but I've seen it time and time again where we just try to blow out the intersection. We're spending up to $60 million for right-of-way acquisition for construction, when maybe we can think about another way to connect between these parcels that probably in the south, the commercial piece might need a little bit of vehicular traffic so that they can get people in front of their doorways. And maybe you pay them for an easement to cross and go through and connect to the signal. And I think we can do better. I think it's not just FDOT's problem, it's all of our problems. We cannot continue to be designing for this type of thing and be in our silos. And so I encourage us all, you know, if the county is here with us, let's talk to them. The other part, so I'm off my soapbox on that. The other part of this is that, you know, there's a lot of money and effort going into the movement of traffic, movement of bicycles, movement of people. And, you know, if we want people to get out of their cars and use transit and bike and walk, I mean, Brian, you do it all the time, but it's nice. We have to give dignity to the people who are walking, biking, and even to give them something to look at. So like one of the things that I was looking at this canal, there's a canal realignment. That is a major opportunity to have landscape infrastructure, create a linear park, incorporate some littoral plantings so that when you're walking along that walkway or riding your bike, it's fabulous. And it's a joy to do. Whether you want to do it or have to do it out of necessity, we should be striving to make these places that we want to be in. The journey is worth it. So we need to make that in everything we do. So that's what I encourage that you guys look at. And I mean, I'd be happy to talk to Lake Worth Drainage District to try and see if they want to do some plantings to incorporate this on top of, you know, in addition to what you're doing. It's such an opportunity that when I look at the aerial and it connects with other open space and preserves. So it's a real opportunity for these, for animals to migrate. I'm sure there's otters in here. So when I hear a ditch is going to get piped, I think about, oh, where's the otter going to go? And is it going to get caught in that grill at the end of the pipe? So things to think about. It's not just for the cars. It's not just for, you know, it's for everyone, animals, people, and let's make it a journey. Anybody else?
Margie, I've been trying to get in here. This is David Willock.
Oh, I'm sorry, David. I didn't have your hand raised. My apologies. So
That's all right.
David, and I think Brian.
I think there's an issue with my hand raising. I hit it like 15 times. But my question is, I'm always curious whenever there is a new intersection design that comes up. Is this implemented anywhere in the state of Florida where we could go take a look at it? I mean, seeing the aerial diagrams one thing, but like actually driving through especially something as new and actually, kind of strange as this. I'd really like to see it firsthand.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking that same question. And right now, the intersection of North Lake at State Road 710, that intersection is proposed to have this type of configuration, and that I think is supposed to be built within the next 3 years. So it's not out there today, but that will be one location that it will be implemented. In the state of Florida, there is one that has been built right now in Lee County. Hassan, did you say that was State Road 82?
82, yeah.
State Road 82 in Lee County, there has one that has been built.
Yeah.
As far as the operations, there are videos of this type of configuration that shows a simulation from the driver's perspective. I believe that's on YouTube.
Yes, it's called continuous flow intersection, CFI intersection, and if
Yeah.
you YouTube that one.
And yeah, and that'll give you from a driver's perspective what that would look like and how it operates and so forth.
How long has the one in Lee County been in operation?
In August 2019, they opened to the traffic. 2 years almost.
Are you familiar with any of the pedestrian bike issues, any that have happened since it went into operation? Like an excessive amount of injuries or anything like that?
Not I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yep.
It's been going for 2.5 years. All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian.
Just out of curiosity, will this be at the TPA board meeting? List be presented?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else, Margie?
No, I just want to check the cameras to make sure no one else is physically raising their hand. No, we should be good, Madam Chair.
Okay, well, I hope you gentlemen take our comments to heart and work together. And I hope all of your partners are listening so that we can do something better. So next item, are we ready? Okay. The draft mobility vision project map, and Andrew is here, the TPA Deputy Director of Program Development, to present.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning again, everyone. I'm just going to go high level through this draft mobility vision. In your backup was really just that map. And so I don't have any detailed cost estimates or detailed product tables. Really, this discussion is just a high level, and it's a discussion happening countywide. It's happening in the region as well. And so I just wanted to give you sort of where we're headed as a TPA staff on this. So our mission to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund the transportation system, and a vision of a safe, efficient, and connected multimodal transportation system. So I wanted to focus here on the word collaboratively. So this is not just going to be a discussion that happens between local governments, the county, the state, and the TPA, but also this is really how we're transitioning to getting the private sector and development and citizens involved in this process. So why develop a mobility vision? What we're looking to achieve here is implementing the desires plan, elements of our long-range transportation plan. And for those of you who went through that process and those who are new, I'll just recap that. So our long-range transportation plan for 2045 was adopted in December of 2019. And in that plan, it has a series of desired projects that are multimodal. So it includes transit corridors, it includes road capacity, state road modifications for safety and other improvements. And there's pedestrian bicycle priorities as well in there. So what we're looking to do in the mobility vision is that next step in implementing the desires plan elements. And what else does the mobility vision do? It helps with accommodating growth and economic development. So it's focusing development in areas with existing infrastructure. So there's more of that development and land use and transportation connection. And it allows us to invest in mobility options to promote safety and efficiency of our transportation system. And then another important part is it provides predictability to incite private investment. So when private investors know where these future transportation investments are going to go, they can build accordingly, and there is some predictability to that. So having more smart growth. So how would this be funded with a mobility vision? Obviously, there is the federal and state funds that we get directly to our county in our urbanized area that we prioritize here at the TPA. But on top of that, a plan like this requires a local dedicated funding source. And the discussion that's been going on has been gearing towards a local transportation surtax that would be a transition from the current infrastructure surtax that's already in place in Palm Beach County. Once that sunsets, it would be a transition into this local transportation surtax that it would be able to be spent on transportation infrastructure and then the operations and maintenance of that infrastructure. This seems to be the most viable option moving forward to generate the most revenue and the most feasible way of doing it as compared to other types of revenue generating sources. So what does having a local dedicated funding source do for us? Well, a lot of the larger federal and state grant programs, those competitive grant programs that can go towards transit infrastructure and other types of infrastructure require a local match. So this is a great way for us to have a dedicated funding source to apply that match to those grants. It also assists us in accelerating reconstruction of roadways, safety improvements, and then roadway capacity improvements that are needed in some areas for those. And then lastly, transition to a local transportation surtax allows us to have a dedicated revenue source to operate new mobility services once the capital investments are made. So for example, transit, you would have a funding source that's dedicated to the ongoing operations and maintenance of transit. So the content of the mobility vision, what's in here and what you have in your backup is that one map. So it includes the 561 plan that the TPA has in their long range transportation plan, and then also connections to state roads. So it's implementing selected transit investments on those corridors once those studies have been completed. It's rebuilding state roadways to increase safety and provide more pedestrian bicycle facilities. Also part of this mobility vision is the county and city oversights of their facilities. So rebuilding county roadways with pedestrian bicycle facilities and safety, enhancing traffic signal technology and efficiency, and widening roadways in car-centric areas that are still needing those investments. And then lastly, for the city transportation investments, rebuilding city streets with pedestrian bicycle facilities for increased safety, and then adding that investment in local mobility services that would complement the greater regional mobility and county mobility of a transit network. So that first and last mile connection, or any local circulators when it comes to local municipalities. And I'll just go through the map that was provided in the backup, and I'll explain each one high level. There's the 561 plan transit corridors. So these again are the ones from our long range transportation plan, and that includes 5 north-south corridors, 6 east-west corridors to make one connected transit system. You'll see a presentation here in a second from James Reinhardt, our transit coordinator, on the progress of the Okeechobee Boulevard corridor study and where we're headed with that. We've already completed the US 1 multimodal corridor study a few years ago and are implementing the priorities from that. And then we'll be going through the other corridors in the coming years to have alternatives provided and start making progress on implementing those as well. Also included are pedestrian bicycle investment corridors. So these are the tier 1 pedestrian bicycle investment priorities from our long range transportation plan. And this consists of 117 miles of FDOT roadways, 189 miles of Palm Beach County roadways, and 68 miles of municipal roadways. Next is the roadway capacity projects. And the ones that we are providing on the map and that'll be as a basis for this vision that are still being worked through are the ones that are in our LRTP. So these are ones that were discussed and agreed upon and adopted into our long-range transportation plan. So these are a series of county roadway widenings that we had in that plan that were adopted. You can see a lot of those, many of them in the Western communities out there. And lastly, the ones that don't have a specific location on this map. These are additional projects. Again, I mentioned the municipal mobility services. So those first and last mile connections and their circulators and other types of mobility services. And then traffic signal investments. So both Palm Beach County, who owns around 1,000 traffic signals, and then Boca Raton as well, maintain signals in the county. And so both of them have additional investments they need going into the future to improve efficiency and to harden their infrastructure, make it more resilient. And so those are the types of improvements that we would also have dispersed throughout the county. And this is my last slide for you. This is the mobility vision, this implementation timeline and where we see it going forward. Obviously, this is the discussion that's been happening again at the county and regional level. This is still being refined. And so these elements of the vision is really gonna be refined from 21 to possibly the next 2 years, to 2023. So in that time frame, receive feedback from stakeholders in the community. We're going to refine those cost estimates for products and services that I just presented, and then figure out how we're going to have the funding allegations to the implementing agencies. So how much are we going to be able to capture from federal and state revenues? And then how much of that local dedicated source are we needing to have to implement this vision? Then it would really be an educational campaign in early 2024 that explains the content of the vision. And then if all things go well with that, what we would be looking towards is a ballot initiative in November 2024, if that's the direction that the entirety of Palm Beach County and all the locals and TPA would like to go. And this would become effective upon the sunset of the current infrastructure surtax. So the current surtax goes towards schools, and then the other half go towards infrastructure investments from our previous backlog of needs that go towards different ones in the county. So this would transition from that to keep the same tax and go towards this infrastructure surtax for transportation. And really, that's all I have for you. We'll be coming again to you all and to further this discussion in the next few months and over the course of the next few years.
Do we have any public comment, Margie?
No, Madam Chair, no general public comments. I do have Fadi with his hand raised.
Fadi. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, for the presentation. My comment, I know I've kind of mentioned my perspective before. I mean, there's a lot of transit experts predicting that the future of transit, it's really micromobility. And we're still going in a very traditional way, and probably you want to have dedicated money to spend on something that may or may not work. I mean, I'm not going to argue the merits right now, but I just want to mention that maybe TPA need to, I understand, premium transit sounds great, but I think probably you need to have other options, and you really need to figure out your ridership before you commit to something major. And a lot of time, by the way you put your proposal, select your consultant, you already have an idea about what kind of conclusion they're going to come up with. So I hope that you have a broader mind and really see what other experts are saying in the way we're going with the future of mobility. If the ridership is there, I'll be the first one to support, premium transit, dedicating fund for it, but please be careful. My other comment is really also related to safety. Clearly, for us, when we did our first evaluation of all the fatal crashes and other stuff, that most of these accidents cannot really be easily prevented. You have people just darting or dashing in front of cars. And the best way to deal with that is really by technology, by having cars basically with some sensor in it, kind of either taking evasive action or letting the driver know that there's something that they cannot see. Or you can have some equipment at intersection that communicate with cars. It's really the kind of communication between vehicle and infrastructure among vehicles. And that requires a lot of investment. And this is clearly will be the best benefit to reduce a lot of these fatal pedestrian and bike crashes. So I hope also this is not will be just like a line in your future. We're talking about, the next investment for the next 10, 20, 30 years. I hope that you get some other opinions, open basically to, what the technology is providing us. And the easiest way for manufacturer to implement those technology in the vehicles is when they can already get some information from the signal timing. So by investing in the infrastructure, you're helping car manufacturer implementing this communication system that everybody realizes can happen sooner or later. So again, it's a general comment. As I mentioned before, if the ridership is there, I'm the first one to support. You're kind of massive investment, but I don't think the future is there. And again, I mean, I've worked in transit for many, many years, and I hope you kind of open your mind to other ideas. Thank you.
Thanks, Fadi. Do we have any more comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you for keeping the dream alive. I believe in transit. I think it's the future. I think the biggest impediment to transit that we face in South Florida is the stigma associated with it. And so if we can get a better mindset or change our attitudes on riding transit because we like our cars and we like our things, that we could overcome that whole premise. And I also think that $5 a gallon will make people want to ride transit too. So over time, we are going to have to do it, and making these planning decisions and having vision is something to be applauded. So thank you. Okay, so we're getting through our, Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7 study kickoff. So James Reinhardt, the TPA Transit Coordinator, will present this item. Welcome, James, to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is James Reinhardt. I'm the lead transit coordinator for the Palm Beach TPA. I'm going to be providing a pretty quick overview of the Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7 multimodal corridor study. We have kicked this off in this recently, and we are beginning the process. So a lot of the information that we're going to is going to be high-level overview with details to come in the future. So for this, for this overview, we're going to be quickly touching on the study purpose and the limits of the study, components that are going to be developed during this study, our public and stakeholder engagement efforts, and then wrapping up with the timeline. So as a quick reminder for everybody, I know we just heard from Andrew, but Okeechobee Boulevard and the State Road 7 corridors were identified in the Palm Beach TPA's 561 plan as which it consists of 5 north-south corridors and 6 east-west corridors to create that one enhanced transit network connecting Palm Beach County to the rest of Southeast Florida. This the purpose of this study for Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7 is to evaluate not just the enhanced transit components and supportive land uses that could come with enhanced transit, but also how to evaluate alternatives for pedestrian and bicycle and commercial and personal vehicles along this corridor. The limits of this corridor are starting down at the south at the Wellington Mall. It goes from Wellington Mall at the corner of Forest Hill Boulevard and State Road 7. It moves north along State Road 7 to Okeechobee Boulevard and then turns east and goes along Okeechobee all the way to Rosemary Square at Rosemary Avenue in downtown West Palm Beach. We've noticed as when we selected this corridor and started evaluating that within a half-mile radius of this corridor, there's 42,000 residents and 14,000 households and 46,000 jobs within close proximity to this corridor, which is why we believe this corridor is important to our 561 plan, but also to the to Palm Beach County as creating a safe and efficient multimodal part of the safe and efficient multimodal network. The components of this study, we've got the 5 parts that we see on the screen. First being public and stakeholder engagement. I'm actually going to touch on this a little bit more on the next slide, but we're going to be doing transit analysis, multiple different transit alternative analyses and roadway alternative analyses along this corridor to present to the public and key stakeholders along that corridor, as well as doing a health impact assessment to evaluate the after we've developed or while we're developing these alternative analyses and roadway analyses for both the transit and the roadway, we'll be looking at the health impact of those alternatives as we're narrowing down to a locally preferred alternative. And then we're also going to be looking at what kind of land use and economic development can occur along this corridor based on the work that's being done during the transit and roadway analysis. And all that will be shared with the public and our stakeholders through a variety of engagement events, which are listed out on the screen now. We will have a study advisory working group. They'll be meeting 4 times throughout the timeline. We've invited directors from city departments and county as well, I believe it was county engineering, and then also representatives from West Palm Beach, Royal Palm Beach and Wellington, as well as representatives from the Chamber of Commerce's in Palm Beach County to sit on this advisory group and listen to the updates on the project and provide input. And we've also have a health impact assessment working group that's going to be comprised of health professionals that can help us evaluate public health issues and concerns along that corridor as we're developing our alternatives. We'll also be doing land use and economic development outreach. We're going to be hosting 2 rounds of meetings with representatives from the county and those 3 municipalities along the corridor, as well as having a workshop with those communities and representatives from the business community along that corridor as well. We're going to be hosting key stakeholder key stakeholder interviews, up to 32, and that will also be public officials that represent districts along that corridor, and then the business community as well. For public outreach, we're going to be doing 3 public outreach events throughout the timeline, and then doing field visits, and then separate from the field visits, doing stories of the corridor interviews. And if some of you remember from the US 1 corridor study, we did stories of the corridor where staff and their consultant actually rode the Route 1 bus along the corridor and talked to riders and got their feedback, and also from businesses along the corridor as well to get their opinions about the transit service and the roadway and just transportation in general, and to get some good feedback from them, and compiled all that information as part of the study. And we had a lot of success with that effort, and we're going to do it again along this corridor. And then finally, we have a website that we launched this week That's going to be the landing page for any updates on the study, as well as kind of the landing zone for any key documents that are being developed throughout this study process. And you'll also be able to take our online interactive survey once we've completed it. It's not quite ready yet, but it will be up there as well. And then also see about any public engagement events that you can share with your friends, family, community, anybody that you think might be interested in participating in this effort. So our study timeline, I broke it down into quadrants. From April to June, we kicked off this study and started doing a lot of the coordination efforts to get our working groups established and developing our list for stakeholder interviews to start inviting them to participate in interviews. And we'll also be doing the stories of the corridor evaluation along the route. And then from July to September, we're going to be hosting our second round of working group meetings in our first public outreach event, as well as doing our land use and economic development analysis meetings and workshop that I mentioned in the previous slides. From October to December, we're going to be doing our third rounds of working group meetings and second public outreach event and presenting an update on this study in December. And then from January to March, we're wrapping up the project with our fourth round of working group meetings and our third public outreach event so that we can finalize the study and present it to the TPA board and the committees in March. And so a way to get involved on this project is you can visit the project website at palmbeachtpa.org/OKI, participate in public workshops, promote the participation in your community. And if you have any more information or want any more information, please contact me. That's my information up on the screen. And if we want to, we can click on the hyperlink now. And this is what our website homepage looks like. On the homepage, we've got our purpose and our study area for this project that can also be clicked on to be a PDF that you can print off and share. We have right now, it's a whole placeholder, but we have a comment map that's coming soon that you'll be able to click on that and then go into the map and put pins down on the map and provide comments about issues and concerns along the corridor. And then our study timeline is on there as well. And then, there's different ways to different components of the study. And at the top, we have our homepage, of course, and then the different ways to get involved. And then the landing web pages for our transportation and land use efforts, health impact efforts, and then the documents that are going to be developed throughout this study. And right now, if you go on that website, there's not a lot of information because we just started, but it's going to be a live website that's going to be updating frequently throughout the project timeline. That's all I have for this morning. Are there any questions for me?
Margie, do we have any public comment?
I have no general public comments.
Okay. Anybody have any comments from the board?
I have David and Jean with their hands raised.
Okay, David.
I just had a quick question. I'm sure Palm Train's going to be involved with this. Are you going to involve any other companies like automated vehicles or micro mobility, kind of alluding back to what Fadi was talking about before?
We have not added them into the conversation, but yes, Palmtran, to clarify, Palmtran is involved in this study. They are as part of our internal coordination meetings, as well as having a representative on our working group meetings, and will be encouraged to be participating in the public outreach as well. We have not coordinated with any private autonomous vehicle type or micromobility companies at this time.
Would you be open to having them involved if they were willing to be involved?
I believe we would be, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Jean.
Your microphone.
Whoops. I was very excited to see that land use is a component in the planning process and also the demographics and the number of households with one car and with no cars and the percentage of minorities. One of the things I would say is I know from Parks and Recreation, different ethnic groups recreate differently. Like South Americans are huge soccer components, where maybe people from the islands are more into cricket, which is what we've seen. But I would also dig deeper, even into the half the people are minority. I'd even dig deeper into what their cultural roots are to see how they, street trees and things like that.
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry, just one thought about David's comment was that there's a lot of car dealerships along there. So you might be able to get one of them like Audi or somebody who has that type of burgeoning technology to want to be more involved than others. So just a thought. That was a good one.
Yeah, along that with Stephanie, I think I went to a presentation that Kittleson did at the port about 4 or 5 years ago about automated vehicles. And they're saying it's the future. So I'm sure there would be people open out there. If not the car dealerships, I mean, that's a great idea. I wasn't even thinking of that, but you're exactly right. There's going to be automated vehicles coming from every manufacturer very soon. There's going to be electric vehicles coming from every manufacturer. So yeah, I just think keeping the options open just be a good idea.
And thank you, David. And I'll point that Kittleson is one of our consultants on this project, so we can reach out to them and discuss this effort.
I have Fadi, Yash, and Ted.
Fadi.
Yeah, I mean, James, you're transit expert, and I know there is some simple or not complicated tool to use, whether it's the regional model or stops or anything, to estimate ridership. What hasn't been done? You do have the land uses, you have the projected land uses. Why not a preliminary ridership estimate has been done, and you're so far ahead with your studies?
So just a quick reminder, this study has just begun, and we're going to be evaluating a variety of different transit alternatives that could be used along this corridor. And as part of that is determining potential ridership and also what kind of roadway configuration that would imply, depending whether it's going to be a bus rapid transit, like mixed bus rapid transit, similar to what was the preferred alternative for US 1, all the way up to a rail type service running with dedicated space. So our consultants will be looking at all these different alternatives. I believe we have up to 7 alternatives that we're going to be evaluating as part of this study, and looking at ridership, and then going to what Jean mentioned, also looking at the land use component and what kind of impacts that has on the land use as well.
Thanks, Fadi. Yash?
Hey, good morning. I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention that we are doing another route performance maximization study, which will look at micromobility options with Ubers and Lyft, mobility on demand, all of those other options that can really supplement the fixed route. So that study, we've begun that study. The results will come out, and we're expecting the end of this year. So we do expect to find areas where we can use alternate modes of transit and then really supplement our fixed route in the county. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Good Enough.
I appreciate the presentation. You mentioned that you are, you've just built a website and you're going to be adding more. Have you checked it for accessibility without a mouse? Because you mentioned a lot of clicking, and in the disabled community, there's a lot of people who can't use a mouse and who can't do clicking. They have to use keyboards. Are you testing for that?
We have ensured that this is a mobile friendly website that can be used by both phone or a desktop. I apologize for using the term clicking. I was referencing mainly because we were looking at a computer at the time, but I can assure you that it was developed to be able to be mobile, friendly for a tablet or a phone, as well as for a desktop computer.
Yeah, that's not my question, but I appreciate that. My question is, can it be operated if you're sitting at a desktop without using a mouse? Can you do it all and access all parts with a keyboard?
We have not, as far as I know, it has not been tested, but I will reach out to our consultant that helped build the website and ask them this question. And I'll
Yeah,
let you
I
know.
recommend that because during pandemic especially, the number of lawsuits to DOJ, went up over 200% for websites that were not accessible. Just a thought.
Thank you. And we'll make sure to look at that and let you know.
Thank you. Oh, I'll go
Right.
test it.
Thanks for keeping us honest on that, Mr. Goodenough. We need constant reminders. Brian.
Yes, very excited about the study. I think it's ripe and probably past ripe for something of this magnitude to take place. Are you going to be providing the the advisory committees to the TPA presentation updates as well as the study progresses?
We'll be providing updates on the project. I think we're going to be providing an update I think scheduled for December is the next time we'll be providing an update. And we're going to have we have a lot of work to between now and then to try to from our consultant team to develop alternatives, provide to get feedback from our advisory working groups, and then we'll be sharing an update in December on this.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm with Brian. I'm with everyone. This is very exciting for someone who has driven down Okeechobee, like many of us. I think there's a lot of opportunities there, in terms of transit, mobility, changes in land uses, possibilities for, reimagining this space, including, current market trends, which is a reduction in retail, and possibly looking at ways that we could, and it's not this, I know this isn't my area, this isn't my town, but there are ways where we could recapture land for simple things like space for street trees, linear parks, looking at how we can reduce parking and land uses so that we can create a better corridor, and how we can do that in such a way very minimally, because I know over the years, as Okeechobee has widened, all of that landscape and trees have slowly gone away with all the right-of-way taking. So this is a real opportunity for us to, think forward and really try to get back. And, if you look at some of these European cities where they have large arterial roads, they have these, bypasses with alleys of trees, and people congregate, and they like to congregate along those sides. So I think it's a real opportunity for us to really, think forward. So
Great.
nice, fun. I'm going to be commenting. So I encourage everyone else to. Exactly. I got to keep going. So we're moving along. Yay. Administrative items. We have summary points from the May 20th, 2021 governing board meeting. These are informational items only. There's no, did I forget something?
No, on that one, I just wanted to know a change that had been made for the Palm Beach County Planning representative. David and Michael actually switched positions. So David is the new main representative and Michael Howe is the alternate. So at future meetings, you'll see that change. And we did update it in your member list in the back. But in case you didn't look at the summary points, that's in there. And then there was a few other renewals that went in there as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Thank you, Margie. All right, so if there are there any more public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, so then there's summary points from the governing board, and then there's the FDOT scheduling report for June 2021, and our next meeting is July 8th. Okay, thanks, everybody. 11 o'clock, I did it.
Thank you for respecting our time.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Be safe.
Don't we have to do a motion to adjourn?
No, you can just adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
Everybody,
Thanks.
everybody leave.
All right, thanks, Stephanie.